So these are the points after 5 rounds. Citron are pretty much becoming the scoregami team, it looks like, considering they seem to keep outscoring Mitsubishi at this point. Subaru has had their gap in 3rd place now reduced, and Ford has now become the 6th team to surpass double digits in the constructors' standings. I get the feeling we're not catching Citroën, considering they now have an 8-point gap on us and they are just continuing to score even when they're not running well. A little bit annoying, but I suppose I can't always go into these games without expecting a challenge of some sort. Anyway, let's move on to the Acropolis Rally.
The Acropolis Rally is one of the toughest events of all. The stages climb the sides of Greek mountains and the roads are covered with rocks and boulders. It's a grueling event that can punish both cars and drivers.
And apparently in 2003, the Acropolis Rally celebrated 50 years since it was first run. Should also mention that, under the circumstances, these rough roads often do tend to cause mechanical issues and breakdowns. So it's another 100% gravel rally, and it is located around, I think that's pronounced Lamia, if I'm not mistaken. It's either pronounced Lamia or Lamia. I couldn't tell which one is more like the correct pronunciation. A notorious car wrecker. That pretty much proves my point on the rough roads. Also, before we get on with the stage, I will show this in a minute. But anyway, let's get on with our first stage. And for the 4th straight rally, I believe, we've got a super special stage at the end. So 6.1 kilometers, that doesn't really matter. Let's get on with stage 1. Just taking a sip of my water, and also something else I should show is that in the last episode, I also made an adjustment on the... Oh, okay. Apparently it didn't accept it before. Well, I'll make sure to save those settings later on. Must not have accepted it before, but I've got it sorted now.
3, 2, 1,
Whatever.
go, crest.
I just wanted to check and see if whether or not the
Right,
co-driver volume was
crest.
turned down from the previous episode.
Crest.
Apparently it wasn't, but
Into
it's
1 right.
fine. I got it sorted out now.
2 right, into long 2 left, tightens. Long
Should also mention that because Acropolis is described as
heavy left.
pretty much being a driver's rally,
3 right.
I can see why Evolution
Junction
made
left.
this a rally that is more beneficiary to the player than it is to the AI. And that's a rock. Although thankfully I did manage to squeeze past it. And I am up by 5.5 seconds.
100, 2 right, into 3
I'm also hopeful, if possible, my teammate Alistair can manage to get some points on the board.
Into dip and 3 right.
Because whilst I don't think I'm going to catch Citron in this championship, I definitely get the feeling that says I can secure second if Alistair manages to get some points on the board. And because my plan is to basically use the Mitsubishi again for the following championship, which will be the Pro Championship, by the way, I was also wondering if it might be possible to maybe get Alistair to score some points here, since he did manage to run well here before. As long as the car doesn't break, of course, which is something else I don't mind seeing. And down the hill, and just in the red zone on the tachometer. I was definitely closing in on top speed there, whatever that was. Might have been in the 120s maybe. And 10 seconds up now on Richard Burns, who is currently P2. So glad there weren't any rocks there, or else I would have been upset. Crossing over 2 rivers. And looking like there's going to be no question in saying who will probably win this stage by a long way. Again, this is the Novice Championship, so, you know, what did you really expect? Of course, the mistakes are not going to be very punishing, although they will be once we get to the harder championships, which of course means we have to give ourselves the get good at the game moments, as we're now heading through a village. And I think that's a Land Rover Defender I just saw there. I very nearly ran into that building. I think that was a house I nearly ran into. Oh well, that's fine. That's probably the first and only time I'm actually going to see a gravel rally where I very briefly drive on asphalt. But there we go. We are Comprende from stage 1. I think that's the correct term to use. As we've now reached stage 1 of our WRC evolutions, which means we've driven long enough to get the first upgrades onto the car. Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 8 HKS. It means that the car is now improved, if you're wondering what that means. Slightly. So these are the results. And my teammate Alistair McRae just finished outside the top 8. Good run for him. And one of the Subarus is out in Tommy Mackinnon. So maybe if it's possible, and the attrition manages to work in our favour, if there is going to be any more attrition, maybe we can get both Mitsubishis into the points here. As Armin Schwartz also had a good run in the first Hyundai. Both Hyundai drivers, by the way, are already point scorers, which is why they're above Ford in the manufacturer standings. They've actually run better than I expected they would up to this stage of the championship, basically. So 10 kilometers, excellent conditions. and looking like we will probably dominate again. Okay, we are looking good.
2, 1, go.
So,
200.
hopefully if it's possible,
Into 3 left.
my teammate can manage to get some points on the board, providing the attrition manages
2
to
left into straight.
work in our favour. And currently it doesn't.
Are you okay?
And gonna reset my car to the road, because I can actually do
100.
that.
Okay, junction left.
Figured it was just a lot easier than
Right,
letting the
6 left. Opens.
countdown timer do whatever. And quite surprisingly,
Hairpin right.
I sustained no damage on the right hand side of my car, even though it clearly scraped on the rocks.
5 right.
I guess the damage must only come from if I hit rocks and banks and, well, just random objects, really.
100. 2 right into
we're
1 left and on.
Heading past those ancient Greek structures. It should also be mentioned that historically the Greeks did come before the Romans,
Straight.
and a lot of the common philosophies that we still use today, many of them do tend to come, of course, from the ancient Greeks, for which many of them were quite wise and noble people.
2 left tightens. 2 right opens. 3 right.
I mean, they were certainly free thinkers anyway.
Okay, junction right. 1 left. Through chicane and junction left.
These
opens
roads,
side.
definitely the sort of things that you know
100. Okay.
how to quite literally cause a car to break.
100. Junction right.
Especially since one of the drivers from one of the top tier teams
1 right into
already
3
dropped
left
out,
and 3 right.
which means we should maybe get some competition from one of the lower teams.
3 left. 3 right.
Should also be mentioned that Mitsubishi, by that point, technically was
Crest.
one of those lower tier manufacturers.
2 right into 4 left tightens.
Although the other reason why Mitsubishi technically left the WRC when they did
100 on hairpin right.
was because of the whole emissions scandal,
100 3 left opens.
and in a lot of ways was also what effectively killed the reputation of Mitsubishi Motors. And because Mitsubishi is one of those companies that literally does not give a shit about what their customers
100 on
say about their cars or really anything else they do,
into 3 left.
I don't think we're going to be seeing another Mitsubishi Lancer anytime soon.
Hairpin left.
It seems unlikely anyway. Unless they suddenly
3 right into
decide they want to bring it back again. Just for the sake of nostalgia.
hairpin right.
Would be a nice feeling, of course, considering I always thought the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution cars, even the later ones that they made in 2016, 2017, they actually weren't too bad looking, if I'm being totally honest.
2 left into 4 right. Long 2 left tightens.
I mean, I seem to like the Evo 9 and the Evo 10 anyway.
2 right into long 3 left, tightens. 1 right into 2
A car
left,
which they
tightens.
technically had been producing officially since 1992.
100.
If you're talking in terms of the Lancer Evo, that
1 left into
is how long it went on for, 20 plus years. But if you're talking about the Mitsubishi Lancer itself,
100, 2 left.
in terms of pretty much all generation models, well, they basically date back to the 70s.
Long 2 right.
And 33 seconds up on Sebastian Loeb,
100, okay, 2 right.
and the 2 Peugeots that are behind me.
Right into very long
Had to
3
brake
left.
there because I was sliding into the rocks, and also cutting a corner there by mistake because of the sudden undulation drops.
Long 10 left.
But it's fine because I still managed to keep my car intact.
Long 4 right.
Which in a lot of ways is not supposed to happen, but somehow I'm finding a way of making it happen. As the grass slows me down a little bit, but it's fine.
Okay, 6 left.
We're still keeping on tabs with the pace we're supposed to set,
Long
and
3 right, tightens.
not much further to go. A little bit deep there, but able to keep my car on all 4 wheels. And over the crest,
We're clear of
and
stage.
nearly hitting 100, as I won in the end by 40 seconds.
3.
We've got this rally in the bag, is what he thinks. And I think I'm also going to record the replay from the Super Special. Because I can. Alright, let's see how we did. And I don't think my teammate is going to be in the points. Nope. Well, everyone else is still alive at least. Yeah, I don't think we're catching a such run. That seems unlikely at this point. So we had all 4 Peugeots in the points, with 1 Ford and 1 Hyundai, who now moves up into 8th position as both Subarus have now basically dropped out of point contention. But now we move on to the Super Special, where hopefully we can get some results. As we are now doing Lilea, Parnassos. I hope I said that right. Anyway, let's just do it. I'll also take a sip from my bottle whilst I'm at it. Gotta stay hydrated. Because that's how I am able to keep delivering the commentary. Well, mostly mediocre commentary in my opinion, but still commentary either way, because, well, it's how you know there is someone behind the mic.
6 right. 5 left.
And
1 right.
clipping a few tires there, but thankfully not hitting the side of the bridge, and through a water splash. I imagine once we get into the second part of the lap, that's when I might gain some pace, maybe. Just behind the Peugeot at the moment. Not sure which one it is, but it's definitely one of the Peugeots because it's red. And also because Peugeot at the time was, I think, sponsored by Total, if I remember. Which I think is the reason is to why their cars are red. I did not think that was going to go as well as it did, but somehow I managed to get through that very well. through the chicane,
Right
and
clear of the stage.
there we go. Super Stage 1
3, 2,
by 1.7 seconds over Rothenpera. So, let's now get our replay recorded. And there we go, replay is done. So now we move on to the results. And what do you know? We got 2 Hyundais and 1 Skoda finishing inside the top 8. And Harry Rothenpera was P2 in the Super Special overall. And my teammate does manage to finish, as does everyone else. Tommy Mäkinen, the only retirement from the Acropolis rally. As Armin Schwartz once again manages to get some points for Hyundai, and Peugeot also manages to get a big haul of points as a result of Subaru scoring a big fat 0. And Marco Martin just on the outside looking in. And that's how they finish in Greece. As we now get to move on to Cyprus. I really do hope my teammate can get some points before this is all over. It would be nice anyway, to know that it's not me that's having to do all the heavy lifting. Which at the moment is kind of what I'm doing. I'm pretty sure it's a foregone conclusion that we're not beating Citroën in the Constructors' Championship. That seems unlikely at this stage, to be honest. But anyway, here's how the points now stack up. And I don't think we've got any more point scorers on the board just yet. No, we haven't. As Mendinitsa is at the bottom of the point scorers. Neither Skoda driver has scored any points either. Interesting. Anyways, yeah, there's no way we're catching Citroën now. They're basically a rally W ahead of us, and they're only going to keep increasing that gap. As Peugeot now moves ahead of Subaru in the Constructors' standings. Meanwhile, Hyundai and Ford still managing to get their points on the board as well. So, that'll do it for Novice Rally Greece. Now let's move on to Cyprus.